Thank you for watching. I'm John Razimus. In this episode, I'm going to be doing a book review. I read a lot of books, and I review them. Dead Names, The History of the Necronomicon by Simon. I did read most of this book. I'm not ready to do a review yet. I want to go into details on my thoughts concerning the Necronomicon. More technical, more detailed video than a regular book review. Might take a week or two to even do that review. But until then, I'm going to be doing reviews of other books. The book I'm reviewing today is by Colin Wilson. It's called Poltergeist by Colin Wilson, a classic study in destructive haunting. Let me give you the backstory as to why I purchase Poltergeist-themed books. It's because I firsthand witnessed 6 months of a very active poltergeist entity in my room I was renting in the year 2011. 6 months straight. Every single day for 6 months. It would knock down at least 10 objects, 20 objects on a more active day. But in between knocking over these 10 to 20 objects, it would knock on the walls, knock on my bed, knock on objects in the room, sit on everything in the room. It was invisible, optically invisible. So I use the word sit because the creaking sound that it made on every surface in the whole room, it made I can't reproduce it with this book, but you know, if you have a cardboard box and someone sits on it and it goes and just makes that noise, I heard that constantly. And then one time it got on top of me and attacked me during the middle of the 6-month period, about 3 months in, maybe 2.5, 4 months in. I don't know the exact date, but I do know the dates I moved in and moved out of that place. And I would say the first 3 weeks I didn't experience much of anything at all. And then the rest of the 6-month stay, I only stayed there because it was the cheapest place I could afford. But ever since then, I've been buying Poltergeist books and occult books, anything to find out the truth behind it. Some people even say, oh, it was because of your books, the scary books you bought, the occult books you bought. As a matter of fact, I didn't buy a single occult book, or a single horror book, or a single scary book in my life. And on top of that, I wasn't a fan of horror movies, so I didn't watch horror movies or anything crazy like that. I did watch the 1980s horror movie on Hulu, back when Hulu was brand new, and that's after I watched 15 minutes of this horror movie is when the attack happened. I think the entity waited for a weak moment, and it thought that was a weak moment, and it jumped on me and attacked me. The movie is called From Beyond, a story inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. But let's talk about this book here, Poltergeist by Colin Wilson. I was actually very impressed by the collection of Poltergeist stories Colin Wilson compiled. He did a good job, and I have read a few or skimmed a few other Poltergeist-themed books and was greatly disappointed. Here are 4 other books which I purchased for the singular reason, hoping there's any insight to my Poltergeist experience. We have a book called Life Before Death, which is horrible. It's a garbage book. Don't recommend it. Matter of fact, this book is so bad. I did an entire review on this book. I just bashed the book, say that it's garbage for 30 minutes straight. No one wants to watch that. Life Before Death by Nils O. Jacobson. There's a tiny chapter, even sub-chapter, which talks about poltergeist activity, saying it's fake, or saying it's some pseudo-garbage. So the guy obviously had no first-hand experience. This book is garbage itself. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little ticked off when people say poltergeist activity is fake, because it actually happened to me. And for people that say it's fake, I've been researching it enough to find out that some prominent characters in history have known someone or actually have seen poltergeist activity firsthand. I can talk about that in the future. Jung is a famous example. He thought he was a product of the mind. And I think Sigmund Freud was his friend and colleague. And I think Jung's poltergeist encounters even crossed paths with Sigmund Freud, of all people. So I think Sigmund Freud, someone that famous, witnessed poltergeist activity when he was around Jung. I think it's C.G. Jung. As much as I'm researching this stuff, I'm not an expert at who has had poltergeist encounters. I'm picking up every Poltergeist-themed book I can ever since 2013-ish. But I didn't start with Poltergeist-themed books because I assume it's just going to be a bunch of stupid ghost stories. That's why I went straight for the occult books. This library, the main purpose is so I can learn more about the encounters that happened to me. I realize my drink is right here, and I need to finish it real quick. Got it at Circle K, 2 for $3.33. I bought 4 for $6.66. And the guy freaked out. He's like, whoa, 666, whoa. And the guy looked at me like I was the devil. I was like, big deal, $6.66. Here you go, slide my card. The guy acted like I was literally... It's pretty funny. I don't want people to think I'm some ambassador of the devil. I'm the exact opposite. But guess who was an ambassador of the devil? The freaking poltergeist that haunted me for 6 months. So after reading this book, I found a lot of cool stories and a lot of misconceptions. And I have a pretty strong theory now as to the nature of poltergeist activity. I was of the opinion that it's just a random entity that I happen to coincide with. It was assigned to me, I think, for 6 months. That was some type of trial period of trying me. As far as I can say, I passed the test because I never openly wanted to communicate with it. I never engaged it in any conversation other than a brief few times. We're talking during the space of 6 solid months, 182 days. I probably talked to the entity 5 times. And it would have been pay rent. You're not paying rent. Just to try to diffuse how scary the situation was. I would say stuff like, you're my roommate, you're not paying rent, yet you're knocking stuff all over the place. Be more respectful, please. Maybe I would say something like that. I did try to cast it out of my room, and I did leave. I got tired of that experiment because it always came back. So it had authority to be there during the 6-month period of my life. It's above my pay grade to know why and how and who and where and what was going on. But I did experience it firsthand. I'm a first-hand witness of 6 months of poltergeist activity. So this book, I have a lot of context as to understanding. There's a story in this book, a young lady, I think she's a maid of a manor, and there was poltergeist activity happening at this manor. It was obviously a story in the past. Maybe worked in the kitchen and maybe made the beds, stuff like that. And they brought in an expert. He researched the subject enough to know it's probably attached to one person in the household. He narrowed it down to her. He asked her, has this type of stuff ever happened to you? She said, yes. Yeah, I have experienced crazy poltergeist stuff in the past. He narrowed it down to her. They fired her, and the activity stopped. That feeds into a misconception that poltergeist activity is always connected to a teenager with a lot of angst or a teenager with a lot of frustrations. That's not always the case. In 2011, I wasn't a teenager. I didn't have a lot of angst. I went to work. I had a pretty decent job. I came home. I took a rest. Went to work, came home. It was very boring. Nothing extremely crazy happened other than the poltergeist activity itself. That was the crazy thing. It wasn't attached to me from place to place, but to a certain extent it was. And I do have a theory I'm formulating. I'm going to write in my book, Corners of Rooms, amongst the garbage stories and the good stories and very cool stories. It's kind of a mix of random and really cool, really unique, catch your attention, go one way, go another way. Colin Wilson has a pretty good taste, though. He picks some pretty interesting stories. But one really struck home, and to be honest, is too confidential. It refers to the 2010 incident I had 6 months before the 6-month poltergeist activity that I experienced, which is confusing. 6 months before I was poltergeist haunted, there was an independent entity in my room of a different house. So yes, these things did follow me for a period of time. I would say they followed me from 2010 all the way to the end of 2011. But I'd say 2012, when I moved back here, it did not follow me, or they didn't follow me, or whatever it was, didn't follow me to any extreme degree, because I haven't experienced anything even remotely close. Occasionally, I might experience like something like that, randomly, sporadically. Nothing even remotely. I'm like, it's probably nothing. Even though I experienced it, I don't jump to the conclusions it's something supernatural, paranormal. But I know for a fact, corners of rooms, yikes. I learned that pattern from firsthand watching it. Not the best book review. If I reread this book, I will do another review, but one story stuck out to me so strong, I can only share it in my book, Corners of Rooms. This isn't a promo for that book, because I might not be done with that book for a year. I apologize for the great weight of my book, Corners of Rooms. I have to raise the funds to even make it. I want to have 100 hard copies or 500 hardcover copies ready to ship out, and I want them to be high quality. I've already designed a logo for the front. The cover is just going to say Corners of Rooms with a logo. And I'll share this much. Not too many months ago, I had a dream of a book which said Corners of Rooms with a logo. And I picked up the book, and the cover broke off, and it was starting to disintegrate. The pages could still be read, but he was starting to fall apart. And I detailed that dream, which told me it's an important subject. And if someone in the past wrote about it, it's been lost to time. And it's up to me to finish or restore this knowledge. A lot of people can get the information, as I've already shared it in many videos. They didn't have firsthand 6 months of an entity entering the room from the corner of the room. I've seen it in TV shows now. People have showed me clips. There's even a new clip someone showed me where a house is getting sage brush exorcised or blessed. And someone says, oh, the corners of the room, that's where the evil hides. And then there's the Adventure Time where the main characters go into a portal in the corner of the room. And yes, there are many references. Some of them are going to be coincidental. Some of them might have secret, deep meanings that maybe the authors accidentally or knew about or didn't know about. I've been compiling every single story like that. And the more prominent ones I'm going to be putting in my book, but the first-hand knowledge I gained from this entity entering my room for 6 months straight will heavily be the focus of the evidence. The only proof is the fact that I noticed a pattern, and other people are starting to notice this pattern as well. I guarantee you this book is going to be more interesting than talking about the potential stress points in a house. This is going to be my first book, my debut book. I'm adding details to the story you've never heard before. This is a commercial for my book at this point. No, it's not. I wish I had a better memory of this book. Very cool stories. He talks about mermaids and gnomes, salamanders of fire, sylphs of air, elementals, and that's actually an interesting subject. I believe some poltergeists might be principality attached to a piece of land, and I think some might be attached to humans. In a rare occasion scenario, they might team up and start some duo of epic destruction. Any number of crazy possibilities in this universe are possible. I do believe elemental type spirits do exist to a certain extent. They've been given those titles by man, or maybe they've told man that's their titles. But as far as the one I experienced, it could have been tied to the land. It could have been. Because I know the 2010 entity was not the same as the 2011 entity. I have the ability to discern spirits. It's a gift I have. I'm going into thorough detail in the book. Before the book even comes out, I'll read 2 chapters. I'll give away 2 chapters. I'm drawing a lot of different diagrams, drawings, illustrations, sharing some notes that I made during key points of the horrific, nightmarish, terrifying 6 months of attacks. I'm sure it's nowhere near as bad as a war veteran who was in the foxhole. Spiritually speaking, it kind of felt like that. Work is supposed to be a place you dread, and when you come home, you relax. During that 6 months, it was the other way around. I relaxed at work, and when I got home, I tensed up because I knew there's a freaking poltergeist in my room. It didn't follow me at work, as far as I know. I was able to work, and I had my own desk. Everything was pretty cool. I got a promotion. Everything was going great. I get home, I'm like, this thing. It's like, I'm hoping I'm in a regular world, but nope, I'm in some bizarre Twilight Zone universe where there's a freaking poltergeist in my room. We're talking, the thing would, on top of knocking stuff over. And I wish I could say it was an earthquake or I was near the train tracks, but that's not the case. I'm going to continue to research Poltergeist books. Let me show you just a preview. No matter how old or how new, I'm going to be finding them and grabbing them. Here's an old book called The Story of the Poltergeist Down the Centuries by Hereward Carrington and Nandor Fodor. Some crazy names. How old it is? 1953. It's an old 1953 book. Might have some different perspectives. I just hope it doesn't go down the route of it's simply your imagination and angst jumps out of your body and starts knocking stuff over. I can tell you I don't have the fire starter ability. I don't have any moving objects with my mind ability. It was an actual independent entity. And when I hear people say, no, it wasn't, and the person saying no, it wasn't has zero first-hand experience, I have 6+ months of experience. There was a little bit afterwards, and in 2010, there was a little bit before. But I can round it up to 6 months. Experience, first-hand experience, is what is valuable from this perspective. Let's say someone is a exorcist. They've been actively doing exorcists for 6 years. And then someone with zero experience comes along and says, you're doing it wrong. The YouTube comments are like that. I get YouTube comments 24/7. They know everything. You know nothing. Roger Morneau is a character I've talked about. I'm not a member of his church, but I recently picked up Charmed by Darkness, his latest book, which came out way after he passed away in 1998. So hopefully there's some updated information in here. His best friend passed away last year, right after being filmed for the documentary with the same name, Charmed by Darkness. I just got this from Amazon. I haven't read it yet. I hope it talks about his poltergeist activity, because he's a human being, which I know likely was telling the 100% truth, at least in regards to the poltergeist activity. Roger Morneau, he was haunted by poltergeist for 6 months straight. Hey, what do you know? I was haunted by poltergeist for 6 months straight as well. And I didn't rip off his story. I didn't even hear about this guy until maybe 1 or 2 years, maybe 3 years after my encounter. I was just probably searching random occult, paranormal, supernatural stuff. Came across this story, which is pretty viral. You'll see it all over YouTube. I did finish reading this book, A Trip into the Supernatural. I'm probably going to read this book so I can do a double book review on both of them at the same time, because they're both about the same subject. This one doesn't have too much more than his online interviews. So there's not too much more to add on top of that, except for what I already shared in my Taylor Swift music video review, where the priest said the huge marble stone block was levitated. Very interesting, levitated by poltergeist entities. He talks about 6 months of poltergeist activity at the beginning of this book. I look forward to reading this to find a little more insight on someone else that had a 6-month encounter similar to mine. I didn't leave a devil worship group, which Roger Morneau says he did. I'm reading these books as fast as I can, reviewing them as fast as I can. I am going to review this book right here. More controversial subject, The Black Magic of Ahriman. Right here, by Curtis Joseph. I bought this book to review it. That's the reason I bought it. It's a very cool leather edition. Haven't even opened it up yet. I don't have too much time on my hands. I can tell you I'm going to be reviewing this book right here, The Old Book of Magic by L.W. DeLawrence, which is a compilation of other magical books. I'm sure he borrowed a lot from other famous occultists. And I'm going to be reviewing the Book of Death and Hindu Spiritism. I'm still doing the Dead Names review. Tons of reviews coming soon. I understand this book review is more me just talking about my poltergeist experiences. They actually happened to me. Someone said, blah, 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 blah. My response was, if I had to delete all my videos and only have one up, I would compile all the videos where I talk about my poltergeist activity, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to compile all my poltergeist experiences into one video. It'll probably be 2 hours long, because that's the most important thing that's ever happened to me. It's first-hand proof. For me, it's personal proof that entities from a higher dimension that are invisible to us can move objects around and play with mankind, play with humans. If demons exist, guess what else exists? It's pretty important information. I wish I could inject that truth directly to people and say, hey, here's the proof. Let me share this personal proof with you. But it doesn't work that way. No matter how many times I tell the story, I can't inject and have them have that as a personal experience. Only I had it as a personal experience. But I can write a book about it, continue to research the subject. This entire library is a result of those poltergeist encounters. There are many books on this shelf I'm going to do reviews on. As a matter of fact, every single one, if I have not already. Here's a cool book on stones. Magical stones, perhaps? I don't know. Have not read it yet. The Back to the Future book. Here's the Back to the Future book right here. I am going to do a review on this Back to the Future book. Here it is with its cover. Very cool newspaper looking cover. This is a futuristic newspaper. The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. Many new book reviews coming soon. I ordered a pretty rare book. Hopefully it'll be here pretty soon. Got a cool book on chants from Shangri-La. It basically tells you the details of what these Tibetan Buddhists believe in their prayers. Translated in English. Very cool stuff. Many more book reviews coming soon. Unique books you've never heard of, never seen. Occult, rare, obscure, you name it. I won't be doing it. I'll be doing something else. Something super obscure like this. But until next time, this has been John Razimus. Be seeing you.